Hey.
Happy birthday. Yes. So happy birthday to the Saturday birthday Manda and the Sunday birthday Lisa. And that doesn't mean you're old, Lisa, that you're not remembering your birthday. It means you celebrate all year long, all day long, every single day. That's what I'm going with. That's what I'm going with. So we're going to get started, everyone. I'm so excited. I know many of you got a personal invitation from me to be here tonight. So thank you for responding to it. I'm so excited. So I am excited and honored to introduce our presenter this evening, Libby Gill. She is not only a dear friend, but a professional mentor who has single handedly influenced my career more than anyone else. Libby has taught me the importance of having and being an ally and a mentor to those in whom you see promise or talent or determination or all three. And I try my very best to walk in her footsteps. So let me tell you a little bit about Libby. Libby began a career as a PR assistant at Embassy Communications, a television company founded by the legendary creator producer Norman Lear. And in just 5 short years, she rose through 3 corporate mergers to become head of publicity, advertising, and promotion for Sony's worldwide television group. That's where she and I first worked together. She was my boss, just in case you guys don't know that. After a decade at Sony, Libby went on to lead public relations and corporate communications at media giants Universal and Turner Broadcasting. She brought me with her at Turner. She exited the corporate world after 15 years in leadership roles to become a first time entrepreneur in her 40s, founding Libby Gill and Company. I know, it's so cool. An executive coaching and leadership consulting firm with clients that included Disney, Fox, Google, Honda, Microsoft, Sony, Warner Brothers, and many, many more. As a leadership expert and now an award winning author, Libby has been an inspiration to emerging and established leaders, including me, for more than 30 years, including me for more than 30 years. In her keynotes, consulting, and writing, she has guided executives and entrepreneurs to inspire purpose, drive performance, and create inclusive cultures based on the science of hopefulness called hope theory. And you guys who know me know I am nothing if not hopeful. A lot of that I can attribute to my Libby. Libby has authored 6 nonfiction books and delivered keynotes on 4 continents and in 47 states. During the pandemic, Libby switched careers yet again. In May 2024, her pandemic project, a romantic comedy about the television industry titled Malibu Summer, was published by Penguin Random House. Please welcome my dear friend and my forever mentor, Libby Gill.
Oh, thank you so much, Connie. And thank you all for being here. It's really an honor that you're spending your time with us, Manda. I'm seeing those little hands rising. Thank you. But you all know Connie. All I had to do was say, why don't you check that out? And then she owned it. So she's the easiest person in the world to mentor. And now she's just gone on to mentor so many other people. So it's been a joy. And every time she says that I'm her biggest professional mentor, I forget all about it because I just think we're peers, even though she's a decade or so younger than me, and she's just a leader in her own right. So anyway, she asked me, and Melissa asked me to come chat with you about my career journey. You heard a little bit of it, but I'll share a little more. And I've got a little PowerPoint I will turn on here and get moving. And I just think of this when Melissa and Connie asked me to chat, I said, I kind of think about it as destinations. We'd like to think where we're going, but it's also about detours because do we really ever know where we're going? As I've told many clients and my children, the world is not set up for artists. So you gotta carve your path through that stone mountain. And that's something I think we all need to do. And first, I'd love to ask creative folks, why create? Why are you creating in the first place? Since it can be lonely, difficult, financially draining at times, all of these things, and occasionally painful. And yet we do it. And I find that when people really can isolate, and I know you all are pros, and no doubt you can do this, but to think about why they create, and I talk to authors about this a lot because they all have different reasons why they do the crazy things that they do, but to really think about what's really your objective. Why are you in this process of creation? It might be because you've always loved film, video, short films, whatever it is you're making. I would guess everybody on this call, that's a big driver for you. Maybe you want to make $1 million. I suspect not so much. We don't usually get into it for that. I'll tell you my story of finding out what percentage of money makers I was in as a young actor. It was in my rude awakening. Maybe you have a story you're dying to tell. I know Monda's had some of those stories straight from the heart that she could not resist getting out into the world. And thank goodness she did. And I also think creating is perfectly fine if you do it for fun, as an avocation, for your own friends and family. I have a close girlfriend who is a very good writer. She's an attorney. She's written a couple of detective novels just for the heck of it. And she's now writing a book for her granddaughters, thinking, hey, they only know me as I think it's Mima. They only know me as Mimi, but they don't know about the big life I had before I was grandma. And so she set out to write the story, and she's publishing a book just for family, which I think anytime you have a story to tell, it's a noble endeavor, and good for you for making art in the world. That also includes music and painting, all of the things we do to be creative. And you heard a little bit about my career. I started at what was then Embassy. It was bought by Coca-Cola, and then it was bought by Columbia Pictures, then Coca-Cola, and then Sony. So I went on that. I just learned early on, you can either dive under your desk and hide out, or you can raise your hand, and most of the time, figure it out later. So that's been kind of my motto: raise your hand, figure it out later, and or surround yourself with amazing people and figure it out together. Then I went over to Turner. I set up a West Coast PR office. It was very Atlanta centered. And we had a New York, LA, Hong Kong, London office. So it was really fun to set up the LA office, and then went over to Universal. And about that time, having started my television, I always stayed on the TV side of the business, briefly in films, but I was a hardcore TV person. I liked the rapidity of it. I liked that, it was like every day you were doing something crazy, and it was a lot of fun. But I started, the first show I did on my own promoting and launching was Married with Children. My last one was Dr. Phil. And then I said, I think I've had enough. I'm going to do what I really loved out of that business. And it was helping executives turn into superstars, Connie being just one example, but there are other folks in the media industry. The head of PR and media and communications at CBS and Viacom as a former staff member who Connie and I work with. They're just, I think it's like my babies. All I did was point them in the right direction. And it was a real honor. That was the part that was, to me, the most nourishing and exciting. So I just decided, how do I do this full time? And coaching was, believe it or not, kind of a new endeavor at that time. And it was that life coach world where people kind of took pot shots at the life coach, ha, ha, ha. And because I had some good business credentials, I focused on that. I find it much harder for people starting today because there are so many coaches out there. But it was a really fun business. I say was because when I sold my novel, I shut down the one-on-one coaching. I still do a lot of keynote speaking, but I'm getting ahead of myself. As Connie mentioned, in my mid-40s, I think I was 46 when I thought, okay, I think I'm going to do something new, never having taken a business class in my life. I was a theater major, theater and dance major. I was an actor for a while. But I again thought, well, I'll just figure it out. And I figured it out. And I had almost 25 years as an executive coach and worked with a lot of great companies, but also entrepreneurs and artists and a handful of celebrities. And I started writing nonfiction along that path, which was a very pragmatic move. I would have loved to write fiction, but it didn't make any sense. I had 2 kids to raise. I had a mortgage. I decided I've got to write books that not only help me be a better executive coach, but are an entree into the speaking world. And one of my books got sent over to a speaking bureau, and that got me started. I've stopped marketing because I'm at that age where I'm semi-retired-ish. You wouldn't know it from my calendar. But so I don't really market that anymore, but I do about a speaking engagement, sometimes 2 a month, and that is plenty for me. And it's been a real privilege to travel around the world and speak about leadership and hope theory and all of those great things. And also, I had the great fortune, as Connie mentioned, to become a novelist. And I just decided I would write something for fun, thinking it was women's fiction. I turned pretty quickly under the tutelage of my Penguin Random House editor into a contemporary romance. I knew nothing about that world. I had never read a romance, which I made the mistake of mentioning to a romance writer who was highly offended that I didn't know what I was doing and yet sold my book to Random House. But I've learned a lot more since, and I'm continuing down what is called the single title, meaning it's a standalone book instead of a series, road, and really enjoying it. Tomorrow I head to the Romance Writers of America conference in Canada, and I'm going to be presenting a workshop there called Countdown to Completion, really about getting done, getting your work out into the world. I'm really practical, and if you're writing for fun and leisurely or creating films, video, and you're at your own pace, I think that's fine. But for those people who want to get something out in the world and build a body of work, I'm all about completion. Don't have 20 projects in, sort of kind of along the way. Pick a lane and get it done. I mean, oh, Connie's like, you're dying. Yes. I have a friend who has 20 novels in progress. I kid you not. A dozen short stories, and I just can't fathom it. It doesn't make any sense to me. I got 1 novel in progress. I'm thinking about the 3rd, but that's all I'm allowed to do. Is if something pops up, I'll put it in a file, and that's about it. Because I am driven to completion. I think that's really important. But some of the things you didn't hear before all that corporate stuff that got me some credentials for the coaching and the speaking world. I started my career as, this is a real photo, a tap dancing bear at Knott's Berry Farm. That is me, the mama bear. I did that for a summer. It was so friggin' hot in that 6'5" costume. I could see out the mouth, and I had a handler so I wouldn't trip over a child. I did that for 1 summer and thought, oh, there's got to be a better way to use my theater degree. So I went on, I did a little bit of modeling. I became the hand model for Fancy Feast cat food. Do you remember the goblet with the can, and there was a little finger doing the pop top? That was my little hand there. So I did that for a while, which now is no more than a funny story to tell. And before that, that is not me. I was an under 5. If you know the TV world, that means I never had more than 5 lines on General Hospital. I was the hostess in the restaurant where the doctors hung out, and I would say things like table for 2 or menu, or on a big day, this way, please. So I did all of that. And the moral of the story, why I'm telling you this, is a great mentor of mine, and really a friend to this day, and someone Connie knows well, Andy Kaplan, our dear friend from Sony, said to me early on, do what you got to do what you want to do. And I took that to heart, because when I started my own business, all people knew me for was public relations. And I thought, okay, if that's what I got to do to get started, not that there's anything wrong with it, I just had done it. I thought I will sell the strategy piece and not the execution piece. And I started consulting on that. And pretty quickly, people said, well, you did a lot as a leader. And I switched over to that. And that started opening doors. And that's when I started writing. But that has resonated to today. It's lovely to sell a novel, but I came on the scene with not one connection, no one. I was fortunate to land a New York agent, fortunate that she sold it to Random House. I didn't know anybody to ask for a blurb. And it was a little bit like the film industry in big publishing. They kind of throw it out there, and if it hits immediately, they'll stick with you. And if not, you're on your own. And I pretty quickly learned, oh, I'm on my own now. And guess what? out of the 50 titles I suggested, they gave it a summer title, which means I can only promote this book in the summertime, because come November, nobody's going to care. So it was yet another one of those rude awakenings where you think, okay, time to figure this one out. And as long as you are enjoying the learning process and the journey, and you've got some great girlfriends you can connect with, I find it to be joyful, even if I'm at that place of like, oh my gosh, what do I do now? And one of the things I lecture about is, as Connie mentioned, I mentioned, is the science of hopefulness. Hope theory, which comes from medicine and positive psychology. And it's a little bit like happiness, the happiness research, but hope is situational and specific as opposed to a general sense of well-being or happiness. It's an, if I do this, then this could be the result. And so to me, it's setting a vision and setting that bar very high. It's fueled with passion, but also grounded in pragmatism, that you know this is doable. This is reachable. Yes, I can make a short film. Yes, I have a friend now teaching herself to edit because she can't afford an editor. It's, if I do this, then this may very likely be the result. And next time I'll do it bigger and better. And that to me is sort of the essence of hope that I talk to a lot of companies about. And the word actually comes from Old English word hopian, which means to leap forward with expectation. And when I learned that, and I always, like Connie, shared that sense of positivity and hope. But when I found that there was data and research, I dug in, because that really helped me as an executive coach, where so much is got to be backed by the neuroscience of it all. And that really resonated, that idea of leaping. And there are two, I won't go into all the detail, but there are two primary researchers. And one, when he discovered, when he went to, he was on sabbatical at University of Kansas, a professor in positive psychology, he thought, I'll check out all the data. And he discovered there wasn't any data on hope and research. So he created a scale called the Adult Dispositional Hope Scale, and he began to study. And what he found is the people that came out on the high end of the scale, like all of you, or you wouldn't be here sharing and learning, that high hope folks set more goals than lower hope. You know, it is what it is. It's going to turn out however. And we set more ambitious goals. We're going to set that bar right up as high as we can possibly go. We also have more success. You know, we believe in our own agency. We have confidence in our abilities and our abilities to learn. And we have more satisfaction, which to me, less stress, is a more joyful process, a happier, a together process. And we enjoy the ride more than people who are kind of expecting, you know, I'm going to coast along and something might happen, something might not. And we get more from that, probably because we go in with our eyes open and we don't have the hubris to think we can figure out all by ourselves. So that's, I'm going to throw this open with questions, but I always like to bring a gift. And because I'm heading to this romance conference tomorrow, I have, if you just go to libbygift.com, I've got a little downloadable tool that is really geared for writers, tips and different tools and strategies. It's skewed a little bit towards the romance world, but it will really work for a lot of writers' resources. And I know Connie and Melissa mentioned that many of you also write. Certainly you write on the script side, but may have interest in the book, the novel, the nonfiction side as well, because you're storytellers. That's what you do. And I'm just going to throw this back to Connie and answer whatever questions you might have. I hope that resonated and made some sense to you.
Of course it did, Libby. You got me taking notes, and I've known you 35 years.
Thank you.
As you see, she is really, Libby is wonderful. And she is about saying it and getting it done. So I have some questions so I can start us off. But if you have questions, you can raise your hand so I can call on you. You can put it in the chat, whatever you want to do. You can just shout it out if you feel so inspired. But I want to ask questions that I hear a lot, Libby. And so, and then I have one. You actually, you got in my Kool-Aid a moment ago. So I do have a question that's specific to me, and I will be asking that, but I'm not going to start there. So first, I'll just ask. You seemed to seamlessly transition from studio executive to nonfiction author, leadership coach, and keynote speaker. Did it feel seamless while you were doing it? Were you scared? And did you have a safety net?
Oh my gosh, was I scared? Was it not seamless? And no, I did not have a safety net. I wrote a book about overcoming family trauma, and I grew up in a house where I'd lost a number of family members, two on holidays, oddly enough, one on Christmas and one on Thanksgiving, and other family drama, and wrote a book about that. And I kind of came out of college as wanting to be an artist, wanting to be an actor with no confidence and no connections. And I forged a little path, and I did what you saw, and I did plays and stuff around LA, but not much. I really wanted to go into being a story editor or work in the development side. And I just didn't have the courage to knock on the right doors. Even when I kind of knew where they were, it was just seemed too big an ask to go ask these successful women. I think there was a women in film at the time, but I wouldn't have known that. I sort of stumbled my way through, and I got a job as an assistant because I was not a trust fund kid. I had to, once I got out of college, I was on my own. By the time I was about 17, I was raising myself anyway because my parents were a little crazy and self-obsessed. So I was on my way. I got, by the time I was 18, I had an apartment, a job, enrolled myself in college. I'd gone to 6 different high schools. My family moved so much. So I then got that job and I got a job in PR, not thinking I ever wanted to do that. It seemed so behind the scenes when I wanted to do something big and important and special and creative. But I was pretty good at it because I was a good people person and I was a good writer. And as Connie knows, there aren't a lot of good writers in the PR field, which you would think there would be, but there aren't. And she and I were 2 of them that were the good ones. And I just I got a promotion every year for 5 years until I was a department head. And that was it. That was somewhat seamless, except I made so many mistakes on the way up, and some were super embarrassing, but I kept going. And then I went over to Turner, where it was a little bit of a cake job and I wasn't in charge and I didn't like it. And I got a couple of offers. It was at that time we were all under contract in the studio world. And Ed Turner did not do that. They didn't believe in it. So I got a couple of big offers while I was there, one to head up CBS Media and the other at Universal. And I took the Universal job with an understanding that in 5 years I'd move into the creative field. Well, that didn't happen because my boss got fired by Barry Diller when he came in and bought the television division of Universal. So I had to figure it out starting from scratch. And I kind of made a deal that I would take over one of our troublesome talk shows as the production exec. And also work, if I could work in development. And I did that again, the total newbie. I felt like the oldest intern in whatever job I was ever in. And then finally started understanding, like, yeah, I could do this. I know some things. That had a couple of TV pilots sold. They did not make it to air. So by then I was already starting to coach people. It started with coaching people how to get into the entertainment industry or how to get out of it. And pretty soon I was a pretty good coach and continued to work. And I got a lot of jobs in the entertainment industry and then beyond that. And it was never seamless. I was the sole support of my family and my ex-husband. And, so I had no choice but to, it was a kill what you eat. I mean, eat what you kill world. You had to go out and find the business, and it was tough. But my confidence grew. And then pretty soon, I always tell women to put some money in the bank, gosh darn it. Get your savings and your financial wherewithal and understanding, even if you don't have a ton of money. Learn something and figure it out so you when you get to be my age, and I'm 70, when you get to be my age, that you can start. Yes, I am, Jane. I see you going, what? I got to the point where I don't have to work anymore. And I think my husband would love it if I don't, but I can't really. I've slowed down a little bit, but not too much because I love what I do. And I just decided I'll be okay being a 56-year-old intern and starting something new, or in my case, a 69-year-old intern trying to crack the crazy world of romance. So I hope that answers your question. It's always scary, but it's, if you look at it as fun and exciting, it's okay.
You did it, and my next question was, did you try one while still experiencing success with the other? And it seems like a little bit with the coaching that you definitely did, that you started coaching while you were still in the studio world.
I did. I was actually, by the time I left the studio, I always felt like, one of my parents was watching out for me. And the studio, it was its spinoff of Universal. It was a Barry Diller's TV company. When they found out I was writing a nonfiction book, my first book was about parenting, and it was about women as primary breadwinners and men as caretakers. And when they found out I was writing a book, I got called into like the boss's office to say, hey, you can't write a book. You work for a studio. And I was not under contract at that time. They'd sort of left me alone because the company was new. And I said, why not? How could this possibly be a conflict with Jerry Springer and Sally Jesse Raphael? And they couldn't figure out a legal answer to that. But nonetheless, they said, pick what you want to do. And I said, okay, then I'll go do what I want to do. And I still got a 6-month consulting deal and my office. And my dad was dying at that time, and I was getting divorced, and writing my first book and starting my first business, and all of that stuff, all in 1 year, all of that happened. And I published my book and started my business. I lost my dad. I got divorced. I bought a house. I lost 30 pounds. And it is not a year I wish on other people, but I did use each job to sort of set me up for the next. And coaching, it took 2-3 years to get it off the ground so that I was actually making, a decent living. And from then on, I really learned how to price. And I always tell women, whatever you're charging people in your consulting world, add on 20%, because I can tell you right now, you're undercharging. So add on 20% of whatever you're doing. They can negotiate you down, but they're not going to negotiate you up. And I got pretty tough, even though I'm a softie, about that kind of stuff and learning to value my services. And as they became more in demand, I valued them more and raised prices incrementally. And that allowed me to put some cash away. And so now I've gotten to the point, and just in the last couple of years, that I can really do what I want or nothing at all. And so it gave me I always wanted to write a novel, but I thought when I've got more time and money, that's when I'll do it. And I started it a while ago and kept putting it away. And I have a little writing group, and we meet once a week. And I wrote 2 nonfiction books in the time after I'd started the novel. I just kept putting it in a drawer thinking, oh, I got to do this, and this makes more sense. And I got approached by this publisher to write this. So I'm also an opportunist. If a publisher, I had a little ebook on my website about hope theory, and I had 2 publishers say, hey, why don't you turn that into a book? We've never heard of that. And so I did that. And then I wrote a book. Rice University hired me. They had a coaching program, teaching a leadership development program. And they asked me to write a book about their research and data and all that kind of stuff. And I did that as a work for hire, and my name on the cover. And that was nice. And so it's that, back to that, do what you got to do what you want to do. I was not going to look down my nose at a 6-figure work for hire deal. And so I did those things along the way, even though I would never have done them had someone not approached me and said, hey, how about this? So I try to put myself in that path of opportunity. And then when it arises, even if it's off plan, if it makes sense, and when you got kids, and I got a kid with special needs, I got to, bite the bullet and do it. And that's back to that saying of, do what you need to do. So I don't even remember what your question was, Connie, but I hope that was
You answered it. You answered it. It was really good. It was really good. Okay, I'm going to ask the one personal one, and then I have more questions if you guys don't think of any, but I'm going to ask this one personal one, and then think about what you want to ask. And if you get stuck, I have a few more.
Okay.
Libby, I often hear people say to focus on one thing at a time, as I heard you say moments ago.
Yep.
As you know, I find that challenging.
Yep.
What do you say to people like me?
Oh, creative people, entrepreneur, even if they're not in the arts, but entrepreneurial people with tons of ideas tend to find it really challenging. What I think you need to do, and I'll give you an example. I was working with a woman who was in sales at Nike, big executive job. She wanted to be a leadership coach more than anything. And she put in the time and trained to do it. She left her job. She had a little bit of money, divorce settlement, left her job, went to coaching school in Spain. She lives in Holland, in the Netherlands, and worked at Nike there, where everything's English, the worldwide language of business now. And she trained and she studied and she had all these other things she wanted to do, including make a documentary. And I said, that sounds great. Put it on your annual breakdown of what you're going to do for Q4 and don't even think about it. I mean, you can jot down a note, but do not touch that until you finish your training, until you get a business underway. And then you can start thinking about, yes, I want to make a documentary. And I think that's perfectly fair. So it's all about the sequencing. And for me, if you got your trust fund or your gazillion dollars, you can do anything you want to do, really. I've never been in that spot, and neither are my kids. So, they'll get a little money someday, but not enough to retire on, God knows. So I think you've got to think, where does this fit in the overall plan? And I have, as a coach, and a lot of times when I talk to people, I have them work out, what is my mission for the year? Because I found as an executive, I could really only do one thing. I could write a book, I could start a coaching program, I could do something big and new, but I couldn't do 12 things or 13 things. So I would think, I want to connect with 1,000 women and help them up-level their career. Okay, I could do it through speaking, through coaching, through training, through books. And then I would decide what are the most important things. And I would break those down into quarters, break those down into months, and if need be, break those down into weeks and days. And you've just got to figure out where it goes in the plan. And if it doesn't go in the plan until next year, then go with the things. And this is not to say when opportunities arise, if they fit somewhere in that plan, that you want to do them and or they're really lucrative and you need to do them, that you consider those and bring those into the plan. Does that make sense?
It does.
Hard.
It
You got to
really
be
does.
brutal sometimes about.
I know.
Look,
I
I waited
know.
until I was 60 to start a novel. I mean, I literally said, I can't even think about this till I'm 60. And I didn't have an idea. I didn't have a story. And then I knew I was going to write about television because it's so wacky and fun. And then I decided to put, who would be the weirdest person to put up against a television, down on his luck television writer producer? And it was an edaphologist, which I didn't even know what that meant, a soil scientist, academic, who only wants to invent an organic irrigation solution. And she ends up, because her husband dies, she wants to disappear, and she gets a job as a gardener on the estate of a Hollywood television producer. And it just kind of all evolved from there. And I knew the television side, and I had to learn a whole lot about horticulture, which I did by taking a class at Oregon State and reading and trying out everything in my own garden in the backyard. So it timed out well because we had moved from LA to Southern Oregon, and I just made my backyard my own little case study experiment. And I've continued to do it now. I'm on my 4th year of gardening.
That's
And
so cool. Gina loves that.
I got my
You're speaking Gina's language.
green beans, tomatoes, strawberries, blueberries, dill, sage, all kinds of stuff. Yeah, it's
I
really
will
fun.
say that I I love romance novels, and so for you to say I hadn't even read one before this, it does not, you can't tell at all. That
Oh,
first of all, it doesn't read like a first romance novel. It certainly doesn't read like a first romance novel written or read by, by the same person. But I will tell you, I was so excited because, Khan has always known the television side, but when I saw who the love interest was, that this was someone who was interested in gardening in the soil, I was like, ooh,
that speaks to you. Oh,
it
thank
was for
you.
me. Yes.
I mean, there are things, I thought a trope was a cliche, that's a bad thing, a trope. And then when the publishers put up my Amazon thing and said it's an enemies turned lovers romance, I thought, oh, what a cute little copy line. Come to find out, that is a standard trope, meaning that's your world that you're living in. And there are 14, maybe 16 different tropes, including forced proximity, fake marriage, opposites attract. So I've learned a lot, but I asked a lot of stupid questions along the way, including my first ever romance meeting I went to. And there are 2 well-known in Oregon authors, and they write like 100 books. My one book is ridiculous compared to their 10 series. And people were asking about their writing process. And I said, well, do you know how your book's going to end? They looked at me like, you moron, it ends happily ever after, like every other romance book ever written. And I thought, okay, just gonna sit back and listen from now on. But it was fun. It was a fun journey. And
I'm
now
sure that's why Gina loves romance books.
I'm the happy
Ever
ending
after.
girl. That's exactly right. And that's why La La Land is not a favorite among people who love romance. You cannot take us on a journey like that and they don't end up together.
Okay, wait a
That's
second.
cheating. That is Melissa. It is. There are rules. You don't call it a romance. Don't tell me it's a romance, and then they don't end up. One of them can die, but they cannot not end up together.
Yeah, they gotta be together. HEA, happily ever after. Gina, you'll like my next one because it's about a trashy 90s talk show. And it's really fun writing it because, you know, I can't even mention some of the things that really happened on talk shows in this book. They are so out there. But
Oh, you know, you and I both, right? So I will tell you all that it was Libby's I was working at Turner under Libby, and she'd left and gone to Universal, and she called me and said, Harpo is looking for a PR person, Connie. Will you go? It's because of Libby that I worked for Oprah.
Yep.
So when I tell you she was influential in my career.
So Connie was working at Oprah. I was working on Jerry Springer, Sally Jesse Raphael, you know, all the trashiest shows, but they make good comedy. So it's been a lot of fun.
All right. So questions, you all. Do you have questions that you want to unmute and ask? If not, I'll ask another. Jane.
Thank you so much for joining us tonight on this rainy, crazy night in the DMV. Very interesting life story and experiences, and actually very similar in a lot of ways to mine. Also did romance. I didn't do romance writing. I moved to Norfolk, Virginia from like New York City. I was looking for a writing group, and the only group I could find was the Chesapeake Romance Writers. So I know a lot about romance writers, and let me tell you, they will cut you. You know, everybody thinks they're romance writers. They will cut you if you go into their territory. Met Nora Roberts. We did a Chesapeake Romance Writers conference, and she was our keynote speaker. And somebody asked, because she's written 9 million books. Mm-hmm. Okay. So this is, oh my God, 25. So this is like 28 years ago. Okay. So they said, but how do you do this? How do you find the time? I think she has 3 sons. And she said, look, she said, first of all, let me tell you, I'm an addict. Okay. This is what I do. I could be hooking rugs. I wouldn't be hooking 1 rug. I'd be hooking 5 rugs. Okay. So don't like say, okay, I got to be like Nora. Okay. But this is who I am.
Yeah.
She said when she sold her first book and then she got into the business side of this, she said, I write from 8 o'clock in the morning until 5 o'clock. That's my job. And she said, I would tell my kids, if you knock on mommy's door, there better be blood. Okay. So it's, you know, people think romance, it is a serious business. Yeah. So having said that, Robin and I happened to be co-producing a feature film. It was shot, when was it shot? In October?
Last October. Mm-hmm.
Last October.
Yeah.
So, you know, we have a production company there. They're doing the post. So it just recently came to our attention that the editor, a young man, probably, I think in his mid-30s, was the DP and is also editing.
Mhm.
And we have a deadline that's coming up. And he basically told the director, who's our other partner, that he doesn't know if he's going to be able to make it. Okay, so she called him, and what he told her was, because of the business, they have this production company, and he is their DP and editor. Okay, it's like it all ends up on him. And that I thought this was very interesting, that he felt close enough to our partner Oriana to say, I'm very close to having a nervous breakdown, because I am like, I'm it. Okay, everybody does their job, but then it's all on me to get all of these things done. So my question to you, we're trying to, problem solve this, because I thought it was interesting that he was able to share that with Oriana, because I don't know if he shared it with his partners, who are all guys. So which of your books would be the book to send to Derek?
Probably You Unstuck. However, it's not your, did you get another editor in? How did you solve this problem?
We're trying to get another editor in. We're trying to deal with this, but it's like we also, I'm like a mommy. I'm not a mommy, but I'm a mommy.
Yeah.
I want to help this young man.
Yeah, I would first save your film. I would not feel too sympathetic to someone who got himself overloaded. It would be sympathetic, but it wouldn't necessarily fix his problems. Why does he not have, we all know what it means to have a team, and editors more than it, they work in real time. You can't make that film go faster.
Right.
We know how that works. So I would say get a new editor, have a serious heart-to-heart with him about, we want to help spare your mental health and also our film by replacing or supplementing you. But you need to think about how to bring someone onto your team to take some of the burden off. We all, in growing a business, anybody who's an entrepreneur, by the time you get enough business, you got to figure out how to clone yourself. What is the kind of person, I see this all the time as a coach with a lot of entrepreneurs. I can't afford it. You can't not afford it. I don't care if it is a part-time college intern that could take some of the heat off. You find someone who can do what you do, what only you can do, and anything anybody else can do, you farm out.
Yeah,
that's the thing I got rid of was, I'm flying all over the world. I don't do I haven't done my travel in years. Now I do, because I don't do that much, or I have my son do it. But if it doesn't require your presence, and I can't put somebody up on stage to speak for me, I can do just about everybody else on an farm it out basis. So yeah, you give him a little tough love, but also, guy, grow up and run your business. Find some help, or it's going to go under.
Right.
If you
are, and I think what's happening is they were doing okay. They're doing okay. And now they need to get more people in, so they're not so stressed, or at least he's not stressed.
It's an anticipation business. Entrepreneurs, we're in a it's an accordion. You got to have, if you need graphics or editors, you got to have 5 in the queue that you could call on, because they're all gig economy people. And if your favorite one is booked, you got to have a few others. I always try people out, and I don't care if you get them from Upwork or Fiverr or a recommendation. I'd try them out on a little project that I can afford to have it go south. Hey, I want you to put this whatever together for me, and I'm going to check it out. Okay, this guy sucks. I'm not hiring him again. I'm going to try somebody else on a $100 project. So he needs to start thinking in those terms. What does he not have to do? If he has to edit, and in your case, if you can find another editor, he doesn't have to. He's got to be the business development guy for his company. If he's going to succeed, he should have a couple of editors under him, if that's a critical role.
Yeah. Well, actually, there is another editor, but nobody wants to work with that guy.
Oh, well, then he doesn't have another editor under him, basically.
And he doesn't, right.
Yeah.
No, so we're on track. Okay,
Okay, yeah. So be a mom, but only so far it is as in giving advice, not saving him.
oh, right.
Good luck with the film. That's
That's good.
exciting.
Yeah,
How do
I'm
you deal
really
with
excited.
difficult clients? Sandra Abrams wants to know.
Oh, Sandra, I charge more to my difficult clients. I do, and I call it the PITA, the pain in the ass. Well, PITS, the pain in the PI. I forget what it stands for, but it's a pain in the ass surcharge. And so I do some serious intake. Is this like a consulting kind of thing, or something where you would have conversations before you take them on? It must be if it's a film or a video project, right?
Well, I'm just talking in general when you have difficult clients, whether it's somebody you've already started working with, or maybe it turns out, the person that you thought was going to be great to work with, a boss or whatever, and then one day they're just like, forget about it. They've become difficult or they complain, it's kvetch, 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 and you can't
Yeah.
seem to do anything right. You're like, wait a minute here. The person hired me for my expertise, but now this is happening, so I think it's just kind of like a general statement, as
Okay.
far as like, what is the issue, or is there a go-to sentence, or how do you, remain calm when you want to go, hey, what are you doing here? Cut it out.
Well, the
You can't
first
say
thing,
that.
it starts with your contract, and you should have a very clear scope of work. If somebody starts creeping beyond that or complaining about the work they're doing, it's right back to, hey, this is the understanding of the work that I'm doing for you. You obviously have some issue or some problem, so let's talk about it. As one of my friends calls it, put the dead rat on the table. Put it right up there. I know it's an icky but effective line. Put it out there and say, I would nip it in the bud and say, hey, you have a problem. It's either with me, the work we're producing for you, or it's something in your own life. So let's get it on the table and talk about it. Yeah, I wouldn't wait for it to get worse. And it could be completely in their world and in their life. And you can say, I'm so sorry you're dealing with that. I had no idea. Let's see how we can make this part go a little bit easier for you. If it's Sandra, I've got a problem with you or your team or whatever, then you say, well, let me see how I can address that and make this better for you. Or you say, you know what? That was never in the scope of work in the first place. I was doing you a little bit of a favor, but it's gotten out of hand. So let's go back and look at what we've agreed upon. And here's, before you even ask it, here's my other favorite line of all time. When somebody wants to pick your brain, anybody ever had that happen? They want to know everything you know for free. My line for that, and I've taught this to hundreds of people, is, oh, are you interested? Do you have a quick question, or are you interested in becoming a client? That shuts down that, can I meet you for lunch? Can I take you out for coffee? Which is they're wanting free information. So quick question, I'll answer anytime. Yeah, sure, ask me now. I'll answer that question. If they want to be, they're on the spot now. If they want to be a client, then let's talk about that. You disqualify a lot of people quickly, and you still can be that good-hearted giver that you are. And I mean that sincerely, because we've all been faced with that. Gee, you know so many things and I don't know them. And I finally have gotten to the point here in the Valley, and it's just, I live in a small town, and people are very friendly, and they think, I get lunch dates and coffee invitations all the time. I got to the point where I thought, I'm going to put all these ladies together and have one coffee date with all of them. If I get one more question, it's going to be, I've been hearing that a lot lately. Let's, you all get together with these 5 other women and let me know a good time, and we'll all get together, because you could just eat up your calendar that way. Does that answer your question, Sandra? I like working with nice people. We all do, but even the nice ones get stressed, and I'm betting you it's not you, but if it is, or it's their misunderstanding. I've been fired, and I've fired clients. Somebody wanted me to make their CD the top of the charts. I was like, wait a minute, that was never my understanding. I have no ability to do that. That's a music industry thing. What I can do is help you put together a website, think about your business, look at what are the tools and the team you need. So let's go back to that. So yeah.
That's good. Lisa.
Hi, Lisa. How are the caramels?
Oh, they're perfect. They're cooling down.
Good for you.
Yes, yeah, I live on caramel. So, um, but anyway, that's a different story. Um, yeah, so well, I don't really have well, I do have a question. One is since you were in the, television industry or the film industry, why didn't you write a screenplay? And do you feel that screenplays are more difficult because it's not you have to deal with all that red tape and all that other shit, right? That goes along. Whereas a novel, it's just you, right? And maybe your editor, and maybe that's the easy way. So I guess that's my first question, but then I wanted to say something.
Okay. I did write a screenplay. I wrote a couple. I had one optioned by Kevin Costner's company, but never made. I got a little option money and that was it. And it just didn't feel like my format. I tried to I tried to get on the television writing side, and of course I started, and then a strike came along, and I thought, yeah, I got to go a different way. And when I was back, tell you my actor story, when I was in Screen Actors Guild, now after Screen Actors, I was in both of those. And when I found out with my little general hospital, a couple little commercials, I was in the top 5 percentile of money earners, and I probably made 12 grand in my big year. I thought, okay, this is not sustainable. I got to get a real job. And I needed to make money. I had to earn a living, and LA wasn't even cheap back then. So I just thought I can't do that. And a screenplay just didn't turn out to be my way of telling a story. My son's a screenwriter, just optioned a book. He's on his way, and it's the same thing. Boy, I got to earn a living, and it's not easy. So he's got to have his day job or 2 or 3 in order to sustain. But if I'd sold one and it had been made, I'd probably be writing screenplays today. So it was just a little bit of that, destination and detour. That was a detour that I took in a different direction when it just didn't gel for me. And I didn't feel like I was that good at it, that I wanted to continue to pursue. And it also seemed really hard to sell. Not that novels aren't. I only later found out that big 5 publishers buy only 2% of debut novels are sold to big 5 publishers. So I was in a pretty rarefied small, if I'd known that going in, it would have scared the pants off of me, but I didn't learn it till I was sold. So Lisa, what is your other question?
Well,
comment?
Well, it's kind of like I was listening to you about the romance novels, right? And I've been writing screenplays, and I call myself a late bloomer because, I loved movies as a kid like crazy.
Me too.
Like real crazy. I mean, when we finally I lived in the country, so we didn't have but 3 channels, right? And PBS. And then Turner came on, right? And then that's
Turner
when
classic
it
movies.
started really. I mean, I watched PBS movies, but then when Turner came on and the movie started 5 minutes after the hour, I remember so specifically. I could watch 7 movies in a day. It was
too.
crazy.
Yeah.
And it was crazy. But anyway, I never dreamed it was a career.
Yeah.
So I never went down that route, right? But anyway, I was thinking about, you wrote the romance novels and you've never read one. And
I will say I've read plenty of women's fiction that would be characterized as one.
Oh,
I've
right.
never read any of those series ones. That's just never been my thing. So
Harlequin.
Total neophyte.
My sister growing up had all the Harlequin novels, and I never opened one of them books because they just drove me nuts. The cover, with Fabio and stuff, that just drove me nuts.
Yeah.
But anyway, I'm not a fan of holiday movies, but I know that they get made like crazy.
Yeah.
And everything. And oh shoot, I have another meeting. And my latest script is a holiday movie, and I'm like trying to study these holiday movies, but they're not like anything that I've done that I'm writing. And part of it is because I like Bad Santa. I like the ugly holidays.
Well, that's a holiday movie.
That's a holiday. It's an ugly holiday movie. I like that kind of stuff. But so I'm writing one with Jewish characters and Chinese characters. And it's different because they don't celebrate Christmas like the rest of us. So it's a cool story, one location story, and I'm trying to get that out. And I was just thinking about the holiday, you're doing the romance stuff. So it's hopefully it'll, come out there. So I just wanted to make that comment. I'm, I'm so close. I just did all these casting character sheets in the
Oh,
last
that's so
week.
exciting.
Oh, my eyes are burning. My eyes are burning from doing
So-
the screen stuff. But nobody's gonna do it except me, right?
Yeah,
That's
you
not
got your
something I
own
can
voice.
outsource, right? Because they're all they're my characters, so I have to do it.
Absolutely.
And I know that most people don't do those things, and it's crazy. So hopefully, but I'm really excited.
I like a good holiday movie, and I like a snarky holiday movie too. I think that sounds like a lot of fun. And when I started thinking this looks like it's going to romance, I dipped into all the romantic comedy movies, not the books. So I went especially to the good ones, the Nora Ephrons, the ones that have lasted, since the 50s, all of those. And I found so many similar kinds of things. And then when I discovered Penguin dropped my option because they wanted me to sell 10,000 books over the summer, and I didn't quite make that as a total unknown, and that wasn't much time because my book came out the last week of May. So it's like the film business. It's opening weekend. If you get a big opening gross, then you got another shot. So it was kind of like that. And so I've got the freedom to do what I want. So I'm making this is not quite as sappy a romance as it might have been if I'd had to follow their formula. So
I really want to thank you, Libby.
my pleasure.
Come
Thank
in.
you.
I have another meeting that's starting right now at 7:30, and I have to go.
Hi,
But I
Lisa.
wish I could stay. It's like, I can't
That's
believe.
okay.
All right.
Well, Lisa, hopefully you can come to either the book signing at the bookstore, or you
Oh, I
can
was
meet us for
gonna do the
drinks.
one at the Guapos because I need a margarita. Okay.
We
Oh,
all
I'll,
need a
well.
Yeah, yeah.
I'll see you then. And I actually do have your book. I've been reading it. So
Oh,
Lisa,
sweet.
I need a ride to Guapos, so I'm riding with
okay,
you.
I'll give you a ride.
Okay, thanks.
Well, the
All right.
other thing is Libby is going to sit down with me and do a podcast reporting.
Oh.
So we'll have that to look forward to soon.
Good. I'm excited about that
Absolutely.
too, Sandra. We'll have more to talk about, I'm sure.
Yes, 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 yes. So, are there other? I have just a couple of questions, Libby. I want to make sure that I ask you before, and you guys, if you have additional questions, please make sure you either put them in the chat or raise your hand. Lisa mentioned screenplay. Are you thinking about making Malibu Summer a movie? And would you write this script, or would you sell the film rights, or whichever opportunity presented itself?
Well, I've had one turn down so far from Reese Witherspoon's people. They just said not for them, but that's okay. I would probably, if I got to partner with someone or at least get some sort of involvement, I'd be very happy to get a much more experienced screenplay writers than me, because I don't claim to have any. And if anybody's interested, I know who can sell you the rights. I own the movie rights. So yeah, it'd be great fun to have somebody do that. And
Amanda and I are discussing it, just so you know.
wow, that'd be awesome. And
Wouldn't that be cool?
yes, and I hope you'll put a whole world of colorful people in it. My publishers were scared. I won't say a bad word, but scared to oh my gosh, they had so many problems with they were so tiptoeing around diversity and race. They were fans of that, but they were nervous about having a Vietnamese manicure salon. I had to send them a New York Times article that said 50% of manicurists across the country are Vietnamese and 80% in LA. And Tippi Hedren, the actress, really did bring nail art to the Vietnamese refugees she was working with. And only then, because somehow going to a Vietnamese nail salon was disparaging, which it wasn't. They were just so nervous it's going to be like, people will take that in a bad way. I was like, come on, that's ridiculous. So there was a lot of that. So yes, your nail places, of course, so is mine. So there was a lot of silliness around it. The name of my fake talk show in it was Black and White, because it's a black woman and a white woman, and they drive a black and white cruiser. I thought, oh, that's funny, right? That's sort of cute. No, that's so offensive. It's like, really? And I told them a black woman in film and media had read it, and not only a couple who read it for sensitivity, and they said, oh, that doesn't count. TV and film they're much less conservative than we are in publishing. So I thought, they're so chicken. Anyway, that was my rant on that. I had a sensitivity reader who gave me some interesting notes, not that were actionable, but except one, and it had to do with hair, and that was fine. That was a good point. But that's for another day, another story. So, oh my gosh, I'd be so excited. You'd get the cheapest option known to womankind.
Well, Monda and I are going to see you. So I pretty much think everybody on this call-ish, well, obviously, you can tell how close Libby and I are. She's staying with me when she comes in town on July 30th. She's doing a book signing from 6 to 7. That's a Wednesday, which, Jean, I just realized that's also a board meeting date, but that's 6 to 7 on a Wednesday. And at a romance bookstore, which Cassidy, wait, is it? No, it's not Cassidy. Who's the one? It's not Cassidy. It's the other person. Who is it,
Laura-
Melissa?
Laura, isn't it?
Laura.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Laura
it is
Kroger. Oh, yes.
It's the first romance bookstore in DC. They're now 70 nationwide. So this is a big old growing trend. It's the number one
Which
selling
is
genre.
really cool.
When you said you were going to an RWA to the conference, it's so exciting to me. With my background in libraries, we had we had RWA every year. We had a librarian who created a romance
Book club?
weekend, a whole weekend. She had the book club.
I just did that on Friday, a romance book club. It was so much fun.
It's massive. And she would do this weekend, fall into romance weekend. Her book club was hilarious. My favorite question of hers was around 50 Shades of Grey, which they did not consider a typical romance because sex is ancillary to romance, not the focus. But my favorite thing was I have a scholar coming to speak about 50 Shades of Grey. Can she bring samples?
Props.
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 Can
I
she
can
bring props?
imagine what those would be.
Well, exactly what you would think. And so when I told her, I said, I had to think about it for a moment. And I said, if you can promise me they've never been used. And she said, I can promise you they've been properly sanitized. I was like, then the answer is no.
That's so funny.
Yeah, it's huge. It's so awesome that you're in this world.
Oh, thank you. That gives me great hope. I had one blurb. That's, you all know that's the endorsement on the back of the book. I had only one person blurb my book. I didn't know anybody to ask, and I would have thought, Random House would know a couple, but I had one person, and I was grateful to her. But I'm hoping this time around, I'll know a few more people and get a little bit more advanced publicity and promotion. So, but thank you, Gina, for those words of encouragement. I love it.
I know. Oh, yes, Monda. All right. So Jane has a question.
Yes.
Well, it's more a comment because, like I said, I was with this romance once a month. We would meet, and people were very serious about getting published.
Yeah.
And they're very serious. And there's a huge spectrum.
Yes.
They're within, people say romance and they all think bodice ripping, and that's not true. It goes from the very, this barely kissing to pornography.
Yeah.
Okay. So
paranormal,
feminist,
right? Romantasy is huge right now.
Writing,
yeah.
Okay, and people don't. It's a huge market. It's huge.
Yeah, vampire romance. There are just all cowboy romance.
Yes, horror. I mean, it has everything under that one title, romance writing.
By the way, African American authors, huge market for Black women writers.
Oh, absolutely. There was in our group, I don't remember her name, but she was one of the first African American really successful romance writers, and I can picture her,
And
but I can't remember her name.
we've just started fiscally sponsoring a documentary on Black women romance writers that Leola started work on.
That's
so
fantastic.
great.
Very
They
cool.
don't get the backing. They don't get the backing,
no.
and black people on the
Yeah.
covers. It goes only to the black market.
I know.
You know, what I mean,
And
they don't get picked up.
Yeah.
But it is there's still a huge market there.
There, yeah, there absolutely. Yeah.
There is.
Historical
So-
romance. Mhm.
Oh, yeah. And I'm a romance girl, so I love romance. And Nora Ephron is my favorite. So, I'm glad you mentioned her, Libby. So I will just say again, there is on July 30th, there's a book signing from 6 to 7. And then on July 31st, because my Libby is in town, we're just having margaritas at Guapo's here near Falls Church in Arlington. You're welcome to join if you want margaritas and you want to join and actually get to meet Libby in person and spend some one-on-one time with her. One-on group time with her. You're welcome to come. So I invited my close girlfriends who've already met Libby, and Melissa, who hasn't, but you all on this call are my close girlfriends, especially some of those that I invited to come specifically and said, please join us tonight. I'm so glad that you did. But you're all welcome to come. Like I said, we're doing 6 o'clock at Guapo's on July 31st. And so the book signing, get the book. You've got time. That's why we did it on July 14th instead of right before the book signing. You've got time to get Malibu Summer. It's a fast read. Sandra's got hers already. Gina's already read it. Get your copy of Malibu Summer today. And do
I've
it
read
so
my
that
copy already.
about it.
Put a little
And Melissa
Malibu
has
in
it.
your
Yes.
summer. Yeah.
Yes. Before summer's over, read Malibu Summer,
Right.
and we can talk about it. And then, so that's the 30th, the 31st, and then she's going to be in Richmond. So if you know people in Richmond that Saturday, let them know. I did include information about that in the email that I sent to you all, but if you didn't get it, we can make sure that you can get that as well, because Libby will leave here and take a train up to Richmond. I may or may not drive up to see her that day. She's going to go the day before, but I may or may not drive. But I love that it's Girlfriends Across America tour. So I'm one of her girlfriends, and I was like, you better stop here and meet with the girlfriends here.
It's women supporting women. That's what you do. And it's thank God we all love it. I think when I speak to women's leadership groups, I always say, I'll be glad when we don't need this, but we're never going to not want it, because it's
Right.
just
Right.
a completely different thing. And
Yeah.
when I started thinking about, well, I'm going to just take my own self on a book tour, I knew my publishers weren't going to send me. I thought, this is great, Girlfriends Across America. And I checked with 4 wonderful women, and I've already done my Florida one in St. Augustine, and that was great fun. And it was a group of women, and we went out for margaritas. It was awesome.
Well, one thing's for sure, and 2 things for certain. They're watching, and that you had the wherewithal to do that on your own. I mean, these publishers, they also want to see how well you market,
Yeah.
Yeah.
promote, because they can piggyback on that. So we're gonna share it with some friends in Richmond, and
Oh, thank
hopefully
you.
they'll have an opportunity to come out. But that is what it takes, kind of
Mhm.
unfortunately, but fortunately, because it is the experience that you curate, and you can have measurable results.
Yeah.
So-
It's interesting. We used to
I
hear
was
that that's the
told-
difference.
I'm
I'm sorry.
sorry.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I was told if I can't get 50 to 100 people there all buying books at any bookstore, I shouldn't bother to do it. And I thought, that's insane. So I'm a newbie. I'm not going to do that. If I could sell 1 or 2, I'm going to be happy. 10 is better. 20 is better than that. I'm just going to do what needs to be done. And it's a joy. It's fun to do it. So, it's all good.
We were told that that's the difference between a writer and an author, is that an author will do the business of it.
Yeah.
We'll do that side that needs to be done and plug away. I have a quick question for you though, Libby, while I have you. I always come away from anything. Can you guys hear me? Because my crazy dog is doing all the things. Okay.
We can hear you. We don't hear Hallie.
Good. So I always come away from any session with you feel like, yes, I'm gonna go do the thing. Let's go do the thing. But as someone who is probably in the mid-range of the dispositional hope thing, probably about here, and then I'm like, I don't know. How do I stay fed? can you recommend to me a source so that every week I can go tap that source and get my hit of, yes, you can do it. I used to come to your counseling. I know you're doing your other things. What else can I do?
Yeah, Gina's talking during the pandemic. I just did a weekly, come on down. I'm going to do a weekly coaching session. I met a lot of people there. It's hard with I don't know anybody's politics, but it sucks right now in so many different ways. And it's so hard for artists and young people and people of color and poor people and vulnerable people. It's a really hard time. Gina, I wish I could tell you the source. I think we have to find our own. For me, I get a nice hit from writing, especially, and I go to my weekly group, which keeps me going. And it's just 3 of us. And by the way, Jane, they're not romance writers. One's a YA writer and one's a noir writer. And they can critique my romance as well as I can. And it's really fun. It doesn't matter what you are, which you found with a bunch of romance writers. When they laugh at something I wrote is the best feeling in the world. And so you have to find those, whether it's a group or calling a girlfriend, or, chatting with your sis, or joining and for you, I know it's getting out there with people, join a Spanish table where there are people. I learned that from my son when he was studying languages. You get out there and have a meal with people and speak only their language. And pretty soon, it'll be hard at first. And then pretty soon, both the introversion and the Spanish language will get easy. And then you'll think, oh, I'm really looking forward to this. I don't know what it is for you, but that is the constant journey. How do we all find that? I had to go get a massage about once a month. That helps me. And then connecting with women is, I love the guys too, and I'll speak to, mixed groups, but connecting with smart women is the most joyful thing I ever get to do. Whether it's business women, artists, girlfriends, to me, that's where I dip into my, my hope and my soul. And so when my husband said, oh my gosh, you're going to be gone most of August, I said, I know, but I have to. I want to. These are my girls. These are my women. And it just gives me the joy to keep, doing what matters to me. And he said, I get it. So, that's what we do. We find our thing. You'll find it. You always do.
He's a keeper.
He's a keeper.
That's just what I wrote.
What'd you say?
What'd you say, Jane?
She said she wrote the same thing. He's a keeper.
He's a keeper.
Oh, yeah.
So now I don't have to send it.
Okay. But
that, whether it's a husband or a partner, it's like you do have to find
or
your
faith,
people,
or music, or swimming,
whatever. Yeah. And it doesn't have to be another writer. It could be a musician. It could be whatever. It's just somebody who understands the process and the fact that you need to do this.
Yeah, and it's being in communion with others. You can't always do it all by yourself.
Yes.
I mean, you can pray or run or do whatever you do on your own or meditate or anything like that. And I walk. That's my thing. I like to just walk, except today because it's 102. But I walk and kind of recharge. And so you find all these multiple ways to get that daily dose, and you just keep at it. And when you're feeling like the world is just on fire, you reach out and find something. I'm on 2 boards, the women's leadership group that I love, and I'm on a board of a homeless shelter, which, as hard as things are and as much as the money's drying up, feeling like, this is my community. I can give a little something back. That feels pretty good. So we all find it in our own ways. And I know you do too, Gina. Yeah. And there are times we got to find that half full person to dip into their half full if we're feeling half empty.
Right.
Right.
Libby, thank you so much.
Thank you, ladies. You are all awesome. Thank you for your time and your energy and your love. And it's just been a joy to be here. Oh, Amanda.
How did you do that?
How do you do it? I want to give everybody a reaction lesson.
Gina started it.
It's on your thing that says react.
Yes, it says react. There we go.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, I'm doing it.
All right. Not that one. It says react, Libby. You got to choose the react and then the heart in the react.
Oh, send with effect. Send with effect.
Send with effect is the key.
Send with effect. There we go.
There you go.
We all learned That's so new.
Melissa, is there
See you all
anything?
soon.
Now,
Yay!
hold on one second. Melissa, let me turn it over to Melissa so she can close us out and tell us if there's anything we need to know.
If you're in Baltimore tomorrow morning, there's coffee at the Bun Shop at 9 o'clock. I don't even remember this week. Thursday night, the fellows are gonna be meeting again with casting for their scripts. So no, we're in pretty good shape. We're pretending we're not doing as much work in the end of July and August. It's a lie, but you know. So no, we're good. We've got some good stuff coming up, and I hope you all have a great weekend. If anybody can't find a copy of Libby's book, which you can borrow mine because I finished it like in one weekend. It made my whole weekend.
Aw,
You lend your
thank
books
you.
out? Are
Or you
you
can go
nuts?
to the library.
I have half of yours, Monda. I have a pile of yours that
Only
I'm
ones
working
I
my
don't
way through right
want.
now.
I don't lend my books out. They're too precious.
Yeah,
Also
I don't give
order,
out my books either.
But you,
I ordered mine from Politics and Prose. So,
Oh,
but I was gonna give it
nice.
to the WIF library afterwards. So.
no.
Oh, thank you. I didn't-
Bookshop.org. If you don't want to do Amazon, bookshop.org should have it. Yep.
That's a good one.
And Better
That's
Will
where I
Books
got mine.
had it when I
Good,
went
yeah.
for it.
All
So thank
righty.
you.
All
Thank
right,
you,
thank
Libby.
you so much. This
Thank you
was
so much. I'll
awesome.
see you soon.
We'll
Thank
see
you,
you
Connie and
soon.
Thank you.
Melissa.
Yes.
Mwah.
Thank you so much.
See you
It
soon.
was good to
Thank you,
see you
Libby.
all.